Are you tired of watching your dreams fade beneath the weight of instant gratification? The crimson tide of temptation, a relentless wave, crashed over Elara daily. Not literal water, of course. Instead, it was a sea of notifications, sugary treats, and the alluring pull of the screen. Elara, a woman who prided herself on discipline, felt herself constantly battling the siren song of instant gratification. Her goals, a healthier lifestyle, a thriving business, a deeper connection with loved ones, seemed miles away, obscured by the tempting distractions. It started innocently enough. A notification, breaking news. Elara would click, intending to skim. Hours later, she'd emerge, bleary-eyed, from a vortex of online articles and social media feeds. Next came the sugar cravings, a small cookie, just to take the edge off. Then another, and another. Soon, a whole package vanished, leaving her feeling physically and emotionally drained. Her self-control, that vital muscle she relied on, seemed to atrophy under the constant assault. This cycle of indulgence and regret left Elara feeling perpetually frustrated and guilty, making it difficult to focus on her long-term goals. The constant battle against her impulses was exhausting, making her feel as though she was constantly fighting against herself. Elara wasn't alone. In her city, a plague of procrastination and instant gratification had fallen upon its inhabitants. The local psychologist, Dr. Sharma, had been trying to teach the citizens about the nature of their willpower and how to utilize it. The city's residents were struggling with the very same issues. They faced challenges with diets, they were procrastinating in work and studies, and relationships were struggling. The doctor knew she had to create a plan. One day, feeling particularly defeated after another chocolate binge, Elara stumbled upon a free lecture given by Dr. Sharma. The room was packed, filled with people battling the same inner demons. Dr. Sharma, a woman with a kind face and sharp eyes, began by explaining that willpower wasn't a finite resource. It wasn't a battery that depleted with every effort. Instead, it was more akin to a muscle. And just like a muscle, it could be trained and strengthened through mindful use. Think of your brain, Dr. Sharma said, gesturing to a diagram of a brain on the projector screen. It has different regions. One is the want brain, the limbic system, which craves immediate rewards. The other is the will brain, the prefrontal cortex, which helps you make rational choices and resist those immediate impulses. The key to success is learning how to leverage the strengths of both regions. Dr. Sharma went on to clarify that the want brain was constantly seeking pleasure and avoiding pain, and the will brain was responsible for delayed gratification and long-term planning. She also explained that the prefrontal cortex was particularly vulnerable to stress, fatigue, and even blood sugar fluctuations. Elara felt a flicker of hope. This wasn't about being born with some special, elusive talent. It was about understanding the inner workings and learning to work with what she had. Dr. Sharma then introduced the concept of mindfulness. She explained that stress, fatigue, and even a simple lack of awareness could weaken the will brain. Practicing mindfulness, paying attention to the present moment without judgment, was a powerful tool for self-regulation. It helped people to notice the early warning signs of temptation, the first inklings of a craving, or the urge to procrastinate, and choose a response rather than being swept away by it. Mindfulness would allow you to identify triggers, patterns, and emotional responses. With enough practice, you'll be able to recognize the triggers, the urges, and also develop your own self-soothing techniques. This is one of the key features that will help you overcome the difficulties of the self-control. Imagine you're about to eat a cookie when you are not really hungry. Instead of reaching for it, pause, take a deep breath, notice the smell, the appearance, the feeling of the cookie in your hand. Dr. Sharma suggested, acknowledge the desire, but don't get swept away by it. See it as just a sensation. You can choose to eat it or choose not to. This little pause can make a huge difference. Elara was intrigued. She was really interested in the practice, even if she knew that her willpower wasn't infinite. She thought, okay, I'll give it a try. I'll have to make this work. This approach, Dr. Sharma explained, helped to create distance between the individual and their impulses, allowing for a more considered response. The next concept was self-compassion. She learned that being hard on herself when she stumbled only made things worse. Criticizing herself for failing to stick to a diet or for procrastinating on a task actually depleted her willpower. Practicing self-compassion, treating herself with the same kindness and understanding she would offer a friend, helped her bounce back from setbacks. She explained that being hard on yourself is a sure way of reducing your motivation and making it harder to achieve your goals. Also, beating yourself up makes you more susceptible to giving up. Everyone slips up sometimes, Dr. Sharma said, smiling. It's part of being human. If you binge on cookies, don't beat yourself up. Acknowledge the mistake, forgive yourself, and move on. Focus on what you're going to do differently next time. This was important, she thought, because failure is inevitable, and if she didn't learn to handle it, she would be in trouble. Elara was relieved that she was not the only one struggling with self-control. Dr. Sharma also touched on the power of habits. Willpower was finite, but habits were not. By automating positive behaviors, such as regular exercise or a healthy breakfast, Elara could reduce the mental effort needed to achieve her goals. She told the audience that they could even start with small actions, like putting their gym clothes out the night before, to make it easier to work out. Also, by developing new habits and dropping some old ones, Elara can reprogram her behavior. Think of habits as an autopilot, she explained. Once you have a good habit, you don't have to think about it. You just do it. She also explained that habits are created over time, and that it is important to repeat the positive habit enough so that it becomes ingrained in the memory. The final key concept was understanding the power of I will versus I won't. The first sounds like something that you will force yourself to do, while the second means that you are just denying yourself the joy of an instant temptation. Dr. Sharma explained that using I will instead of I won't made the act of restraint something that you will do for yourself, and therefore that will be less tiring and easier to cope with. Instead of focusing on denial, she suggested, reframe the goal to focus on the positive action you are taking. For example, instead of saying, I won't eat dessert, try I will have fruit instead. She reminded the audience that the language can have a strong impact on how the effort feels. The lecture was a turning point for Elara. Armed with new insights and strategies, she began her journey of self-improvement. The first step was practicing mindfulness. She started with 5 minutes of meditation each morning, focusing on her breath and gently bringing her attention back whenever her mind wandered. She found a quiet place, set a timer, and tried to still her thoughts. She knew that it wasn't about stopping thoughts from coming, because that was impossible, but to simply observe them without getting carried away. At first it was difficult. Her thoughts bounced around like a pinball machine. But slowly, she got better. She learned to observe her cravings and urges without reacting. She would notice the impulse to check her phone, acknowledge it, and then decide whether to indulge it or not. She began to identify her triggers, the situations or emotions that led her to make impulsive choices. She realized that when she felt stressed or bored, she was more likely to reach for junk food or spend hours online. Then, she started practicing self-compassion. When she slipped up, and she did, frequently, she'd remind herself that everyone made mistakes. Instead of berating herself, she would ask herself, "What can I learn from this? What will I do differently next time?" She made a conscious effort to replace self-criticism with self-encouragement. She began to use statements such as, "This is hard, but I can handle it." She also started working on building healthy habits. She started going for a walk every evening, starting with just 15 minutes. She packed a healthy lunch for work every day. At first, the want brain protested, but over time, the behaviors became easier, almost automatic. She chose a new activity like jogging, and she started to get involved. As Elara's willpower muscle grew, she began setting bigger goals. She decided to start a side business, which was something she had always dreamed of. She worked on her business when her energy was at its peak. The changes weren't always dramatic. There were setbacks. There were days when the crimson tide of temptation felt overwhelming. She had times when she felt like she was giving up. But Elara refused to give up. She knew that she had to keep trying. With each small victory, with each instance of self-control, her willpower muscle grew stronger. Also, she started to recognize the signs of impending temptation. She was not caught off guard. The power of habits continued to develop, and with it, the will brain. Elara found her days were getting easier, and her inner dialogue was becoming more positive. The "I will" instead of "I won't" helped to keep her going forward. It felt like less of a struggle. As the months passed, Elara's life transformed. She lost weight, her business began to thrive, and she cultivated deeper, more meaningful relationships. The relentless wave of temptation, the crimson tide, gradually receded. She still faced challenges, of course, but she now had the tools and strategies to navigate them. She understood the science of self-control. She felt more confident in her choices. She began to trust her ability to make the right decisions for herself. The rewards from her hard work were starting to pay off, and she had built up enough momentum to keep it going. One day, Elara found herself back at Dr. Sharma's lecture hall. She was there to share her story, to inspire others who were struggling. Looking out at the faces in the audience, she saw a reflection of her own past struggles. She realized that if she can do it, so can other people. "You are not alone," she said, her voice filled with conviction. "We all have the capacity for willpower. It's not a fixed trait, but a skill that can be developed. Learn to be aware of your inner workings. Don't let immediate gratification derail your efforts." She looked at the faces of the audience and thought, "They are just like me, and I am like them. You're going to fail. You're going to slip up. That's okay. Don't beat yourself up, and don't give up. You've got this." Also, she mentioned that it's okay to learn from the mistakes. Use those pauses for better choices. Be kind to yourself. Be mindful of your actions, and build positive habits that support your goals. You can achieve anything you set your mind to. You are stronger than you think. Elara paused and added in an inspirational tone, "It's time to stop merely existing and start living. You have the power to choose, the power to change. So go on and take charge of your life and create the life you want. Believe in your abilities.